Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we have got a lot to get into in terms of the news. Not everything will be in terms of Thailand, just a little bit of a note. So obviously this is stuff collected over the last day or two, so I will go through section by section. So we'll start off with a bit of transfer news, and then we'll talk a bit more of the pre-season stuff later towards the end of the video. But they're not all by a timetable, so some of them could be news that came out today, and then you see some news that came out yesterday, and then you see some news that came out today again. So just a bit of a heads up there, but it's still news that we can go through, and I haven't gone through yet. But let's start off with Endrick. The presentation yesterday, it was very nice to see 43,000 fans, if I'm not wrong, there to obviously watch and be there for Endrick's presentation. He was in tears. Obviously that feeling of making it, being here, it is a very prestigious and honorable thing. So look, we haven't really talked much about Endrick because of Mbappe, because of you're getting one of the best, if not the best player in the world. But that is a good thing for Endrick, because this is a player who's 18 years old. He's coming in as a young boy, a young teenager. I said this, I want to say last year, this time last year when Benzema left, and we were all thinking, you know what, if we don't get Mbappe, then we are going to wait until next year and we are going to rely on Endrick as the main player. And fast forward 12 months, we did get Mbappe. Vinicius Jr. has proved that he's probably the best player in terms of performance in the world. So the burden and the stress can be relieved off Endrick. He's 18 years old. He's gonna come in and he will play. That's for sure. You're gonna play 60 plus games, right? You're gonna play 50, 60 plus games, maybe even 70. But he's gonna play for sure. But it is about not putting him in the spotlight straight away, throwing him in. Now pre-season will be important for him, definitely. But being put into the starting 11 for the first game against Atalanta in the Super Cup is not something that you're gonna see, because he isn't that player yet. He has spent his whole career in Brazil. He's 18 years old. He has got absolutely nothing experience-wise in terms of European football, the style of play. He has to have I would say even a season to gel in. I said that even with Arda Güler, I did say that, look, these are players who are coming in who have played in lower leagues, and Arda Güler came from the Turkish league. That is a more competitive league, definitely, than the Brazilian league. So if Arda Güler is gonna take a year, Endrick could take 2. But I'm saying at least 1 season for Endrick to get used to the way of play, the style of play, the team, his teammates, everyone around him. And don't put the pressure on him, right? I know people are gonna say and compare him with Lamine Yamal, but just don't bother. I don't think there is gonna be a point, because look, if Real Madrid go on to win La Liga, Champions League, maybe one of the Spanish Cups, maybe the Super Cup, you're gonna go out there and you win a couple of trophies out there. It doesn't matter what Lamine Yamal is doing. It doesn't matter. So I think for Endrick and Real Madrid fans, it is not about thinking about what Barcelona or Lamine Yamal are doing. It is about protecting Endrick, making sure he's being treated in the fair way, because he has to take time. But obviously I can't wait to see him get involved. He will be part of pre-season, because obviously he was part of the Brazilian team, and they'll be back. Militao, and we'll go on to a few of them as well. Vinicius and Rodrigo and Endrick will be back for pre-season. But let's move on to a bit of news that this came out today. That's why I say the timeline isn't really that, there isn't a timeline. This came in from Fabrizio Romano. Dani Carvajal and Real Madrid are in discussions for a renewal. Look, his contract ends next year, 2025. So he's got 1 year left on his contract. I think you go and guarantee him a position or at least a squad role for another year. And I think next summer, if you're gonna bring in a right back, whether that be maybe Ashraf Hakimi, maybe, at least Carvajal is still part of the plans. Whereas I think that a player like Lucas Vazquez has signed for a year because this summer we're not gonna do anything in the right back market. But I do think next summer you could see Real Madrid go out in the right back market, and we'll get on to the right back situation in a bit as well. Speaking of that, but from one fullback to another, Mendy's new contract with Real Madrid is a 3-year deal with a potential option to make it 4 years. It could reach 2028 from Fabrizio Romano. If I'm not wrong, Mendy is 27, I think, or is it 28 now? But anyways, he'll be in his early 30s by the time his 4-year reach. Look, I think that the fact that Real Madrid are not selling him means that they aren't gonna think about banking the cash in for him. Because if you want to sell Mendy for the most you can get from him, it will be this summer. I think his market value will only decrease from the next 4 years, in the next 4 years. So the plan isn't to make the most back from Mendy. It is about having a left back that you can rely on defensively. So that's a good news. And also, Mendy's renewal is imminent. There are only some final details left, and they hope to sign it as soon as possible from Fabrizio Romano. So, hopefully, in the next month or so, before the window ends, you can get Mendy and you can get Carvajal both signed, and there'll be a pretty good window, I would say. Mbappe, great. Endrick, great. Modric, Vasquez staying, great. Nacho and Joselu leaving. Nacho, obviously a bit unfortunate. Joselu leaving, probably for the better. And then Mendy and Carvajal staying as well would be a very, very solid window. But speaking of the left back, just in, Real Madrid are confident to sign Alphonso Davies for free in 2025 from AS. Look, this Alphonso Davies deal hasn't moved, hasn't changed, nothing has changed. Bayern Munich are still looking out for 50 million euros or so. No one's gonna pay that for a player who's got 1 year left on his contract. Alphonso Davies has not agreed to sign any sort of contract at Bayern Munich, so it is the waiting game. Either Bayern Munich lower their asking fee by at least 50%, and okay, maybe not at least, but around 50%, so maybe 25 to 30 million euros, or Davies says, I'm not going to sign a new contract for the terms, I want to leave, and if you're not going to let me leave this summer, fine, I will stay for the next year, and I'll leave for free in 2025. So he has the power, similar to what Mbappe had last summer to this summer. So it is the waiting game. It is about waiting. And are you patient enough? For me, I'm cool. I think that, if anything, Davies coming in will probably be more problematic, because then you have Fran Garcia, who is probably gonna be sold. So I think, you know what, Mendy, Fran Garcia for the season, cool. Next season, if you can bring Davies in, great. And then you sell Fran Garcia, and then you have a left back duo, and you're sorted for a left back. And you basically pay nothing for Alphonso Davies. So for me right now, I'm thinking left back isn't a big need, it isn't a big urgency, so I'm cool with sticking with what we have. But speaking of left back, this came in just as well. Just in, Real Madrid are quietly working on players whose contracts are expiring next summer. Alphonso Davies and Trent Alexander-Arnold for Mate Moreto. Alphonso Davies, we know. But Trent Alexander-Arnold is a very, very interesting one here. Now this is what I'm saying here, right? Now, if Trent doesn't sign a new contract with Liverpool, I do think that Real Madrid might, go on the deal, go on a play and say, you know what, would you fancy a move? Would you fancy it? Now, Liverpool fans will quickly deny any sort of a deal happening, and we get that, right? But I'm just saying, right? 6 months in football can change, and if I'm not wrong, by January, any players who have got their contract expiring can start to negotiate. So, in 6 months' time, if Liverpool are not performing well, they're struggling in the league, they're not doing well in the Champions League, could we see a possibility of Trent saying, you know what, I've been here since I was a young boy, I've been here, I've been through the academy, I've been here, I feel like it's probably time for a change now, I'm in my mid-20s, I'm probably towards my prime, this move will probably only happen once in a lifetime. So could we see this get into his head? Possibly, but let's see, because I do think that Real Madrid will be in for a right back next summer as well. I think this summer it was about getting that main shiny toy up front. Next summer it will be the fullbacks. I really do think so. I think the left back, the right back situation will be solved next summer. So could we see Davies and Trent? And also the problems you could have with such an attacking minded defense, we'll get on to that when it does eventually happen, if it does happen. But that's a very very scary team if it does happen. Now this came in as well. Recent links between Arda Güler and loan move to Bayer Leverkusen are wide of mark. Arda, key part of Real Madrid plans and not available on loan. He's only focused on Real Madrid now. Clarification from Fabrizio Romano. And then we got this. Real Madrid are starting to get worried regarding David Alaba. He still does not have a return date from Water 10. That is true. Because we were told that Alaba was going to return. And now he's not back. He probably won't be back until, I said October, November. But I've seen sources and reports say that it could well be 2025. So we might not see him for the first 6 months of the season. And look, like I said, 6 months is a very defining period of time, because things can change. In 6 months, a player can go from 1 year left to being able to negotiate for free. In 6 months, Real Madrid could be winning games to losing games. And in 6 months, Alaba, who knows what's going to happen? What's going to happen with him? So, I think for a player of the quality and even age of David Alaba, I used to wonder, could injuries been catching up with him? And we also need to remember that as of now, with Alaba out, your main centre-back options are literally Rudiger and Militao. And apart from Rudiger, Militao suffered a long-term ACL last season, and he made sloppy mistakes towards the end of last season. So let's not act like everything's all well. Certainly there could be concerns, and there could still be maybe problems going on there as well. It's certainly a fragile spot, but look, I think Ancelotti has done this before. He will do it again, whether that be Tchouaméni or Carvajal coming in at centre back. He will find a way, and we have seen it work, and we might have seen it not work before as well. And even Mendy can play at that position as well. So I don't think that at centre back, unless a good opportunity comes in, as we've heard before, anything's going to happen this summer. To round off, this is the pre-season squad that I'm going to go through here. So, for the goalkeepers, we've got Courtois, Lunin, and Fran Gonzalez. Now, he will join up with the team in a few days. It's at the corner here, but he will join up with the team in a few days' time. Militao 2, Lucas Vasquez, Vallejo, Fran Garcia, Rudiger, Jacobo Ramon will join in a few days. Lorenzo, Prado, who I think is a left back. Asensio, not Marco Asensio, but Juan Martinez, who I think is a left back, if I'm not wrong. I'm trying to think who these players are. I think Jacobo Ramon is a centre back. Lorenzo might be a centre back as well, maybe a right back. And then moving on into the midfield, Modric, Arda Güler, Dani Ceballos, Nico Paz, Mario Martin, Jeremy De Leon, and Palacios. Now, Jeremy De Leon was a talking point at a certain point of time, and then Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo will join up in a few days' time. Endrick is obviously already here, obviously already begun training with Modric and Arda Güler and Rudiger. Brahim, Juan Latasa, and Alvaro Rodriguez. So, the squad, obviously, the main players are the main players, the players who either didn't go anywhere with their countries, or they came back because they got knocked out early, or they've just come back, right? And as expected, every year, it's a lot of young academy Real Madrid Castilla players. Now, Fran Gonzalez, cool, he's probably not going to play, but, just to have a third keeper, when it comes to here, you see the lag. I think Jacobo Ramon going is kind of expected, and I think these four here will just make up the numbers. I do think that, they might not play that much. Midfield wise, look, I think that the fact that you have got 3 first team midfielders means you definitely need to bring Nico Paz and Mario Martin. And then I think Jeremy De Leon needs to just see what kind of player he is, how good versus how hyped up he is, and Palacios is just there. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Endrick, Brahim will be the main players. Latasa and Alvaro Rodriguez will make up the squad. So, yeah, a bit sad Joselu's not on here this year, but, it is what it is. And obviously, a lot of players will not be going, like Mbappe, Tchouaméni, Camavinga. The Spanish players, obviously, Bellingham, who else? Fede Valverde, Mendy. Am I missing anyone else? Am I missing? I think it's really that. That's really it, isn't it? Yeah, in terms of players who are missing. So yeah, this is obviously your squad. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Hit the bell instead, subscribe to the channel on already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.